Hey guys, I hope you put your seatbelt on for this one. We sit down with former occultist Jesse Dowdrick. He gives his testimony of all his supernatural experiences and his experiences coming through witchcraft, the generational curses that it had on him and his family. And we even kind of delve into some of the Pharisaic spirit of the church. This is a great conversation. This was the first time I had him on the show, and I'm here to tell you guys it's going to be the first of many. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey, guys.
Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you!
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Torches high.
Look at it from a different perspective.
Hey guys, what is happening and what is up? Hold out that glass, baby, because you know what time it is. We about to fill it up. Welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I am your host, Doc Brown, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Hey, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Be sure and hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. Be sure to check out this banner down below with all of our social medias at their various platforms. Man, that would be much appreciated. Well, hey guys, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, I know ads suck, but for $4 a month, you can get an ad-free listening experience, or you can join us on the hero's journey with the all-access pass and get 48-hour early access to all episodes, members-only episodes, and so much more. Okay, guys, with all that out of the way, man, let's get into the meat of the matter. We're here for the conversations. We're here to spread the fire, and just call me the fire starter, baby, because I got a guy lined up for you. I've been in this guy's company for a few years now, seen him in the podcast circuit, and we've kind of circled around each other and missed each other, so we finally hooked up through commie talk, as we like to call it. And so I reached out and invited him to come on, but I'd like to welcome to the show for the first time, hopefully the first time of many, is Jesse Dowdrick. Man, thank you for coming and hanging out with me today.
It's so good to be here. I am so grateful to finally make land on this. I really am. And man, let me just say, you're smooth. You are a smooth talker with that intro. I love that. It was good.
Oh,
That's
man.
some real Tennessee stuff.
Yeah, what was it? Brother Ward, you was born with the gift of gab, weren't you?
Yeah. But man, I am seriously very thankful and grateful to be here. And I love the podcast community. I especially love your content. And man, I am excited to give some good information, good conversation. Let's jump into this.
Yeah, man. Before we get too deep into the pool, let's set the mood a little bit, as my buddy Trebles Garcia likes to say. Just introduce yourself to the audience. Just kind of give a little background info, who you are, what you do, specialties, likes, what is your sign? Do you like long walks on the beach or blanket under the stars kind of guy? Just give everybody a feel for who Jesse is.
All right, so I am a December Capricorn. We don't believe in that. I was a former witch. I dealt a lot with the zodiacs. I dealt a lot with divination, all that stuff. Dark magic, light magic, it's all magic. Anyways, I was saved by the grace of God, became a pastor for many years, served in every type of ministry you could do. My wife's an adrenaline junkie. If we don't jump out of planes, we drive NASCAR. If we don't drive NASCAR, we go scuba diving. She finds the highest mountains to climb. Anything we can get going, she does. And we are very blessed to have an adopted son. And man, that's pretty much, I don't like long walks on the beach. Actually, for me, I hate the beach. I'm a mountain guy. I am straight mountains. We're out of the hills of Pennsylvania. When there's not really hills here other than just driving roads. But with that being said, yeah, man, I really just enjoy doing life. And I'm a contractor by trade. We have a full-time business. And I'm on TikTok. You can find me under the tag handyman preacher. So you're all welcome to join there. But yeah, that's really it about me.
Mm. Yeah, well, see, we were talking pre-roll, which we talked like an hour pre-roll. And
Did we really?
I remember at one point you were like, "Are we recording this? This is some great content right here." And I was like, "Dude, that's how it works. That's how it always works."
Easy talking, man. Easy talking.
Well, I was talking to you pre-roll, and I was saying that I first bumped into you through Camp Herman podcast, which Chris and Tori, they're no longer doing that show anymore. But that's how I first got introduced to you, and you kind of gave your testimony and some of your supernatural experiences and your coming to Christ. That was a pretty wild story, man.
It's a wild story. And, I actually had someone message me like this stuff, I have nothing to gain from telling my testimony. That's what it's supposed to be like. I tell that so it impacts those who hear it. And, the guy's like, it sounds a little bit Hollywood. I'm like, you could call it whatever you want. I don't care. It's a personal experience. I didn't dress this up. This is my journey. And, that's really what happened. And, anytime I deal with the dark recognizes you. Once you dabble with it, it knows you sort of by name, sort of like your distant friends that became frenemies, right? And it always invites you back. And, anytime I share this, it's usually in October. It gives me goosebumps still every time. The thing that comes to my mind is I am taking a risk by shouting back into that darkness and telling these stories. And for me, it's actually hindering more than it is freeing. So anyone that hears anything tonight, just know that this is all personal experience. This is stuff I went through. I have family, I have friends who have been around for all these things, and you could do those back checks any day. I would love to have those people come on and tell the same story that I've told, So it's not fake. This stuff is real as me and you sitting here talking. So I think that's so interesting whenever we're sitting down on podcasts and we're having those conversations. Shout out to Chris and Tori. They were phenomenal, and I miss those guys.
They were pretty dope. I started the Dig Bible podcast just maybe a month or two before they had started theirs, and Chris had reached out to me, and we were exchanging ideas and encouragement and stuff with each other. And I was fortunate enough to get invited to their first conference, and it was kind of like just like a going away bang. We just didn't know it at the time, but they threw a conference, and then like it was at the conference, he told me, he's like, "Yeah, we're thinking about hanging up the hat," and I was like, "Well, man, you're going out with a bang, man."
Hey, that's the way to go. Celebrate on the way out the door. That's the game. You should have did the Irish goodbye where you just leave, But and I come from a very big Italian family, so. Listen, if you're Irish, I'm sorry, I'm not your cup of tea. No, but I think they did a great job what they were doing there. So no qualms, man. They were great people, and I still keep in contact with Chris.
Yeah, yep. Well, man, if you don't care to delve into the dark, man, just kind of give us a walkthrough and your testimony and kind of what you went through, man. If you don't care.
No, not at all. So my testimony really begins, I was dabbling in witchcraft at a very early age. I was just always called to the dark. I always felt wizards. I always felt wizardry. And I was sort of right at Harry Potter. I didn't care for Harry Potter. I liked Dungeons and Dragons. I liked all the dark stuff. The stuff everybody said you shouldn't be dabbling with, Ouija boards, stuff like that. And, it just locked me in. Later down my line, I figured out every generation sort of in my family has witches or has the darkness reaching into them. And I think that's so interesting because even now I can see things chasing after my son. And we'll get to that. But my testimony is this. I didn't go to church here and there, maybe for Christmas, Easter. Like I said, we came from a Catholic family. If you come from a Catholic family, you just do this stuff in ritualism. You don't do it because it's a personal relationship. You just do it because that's what you do. So we went to church a couple times. maybe, for Christmas at the midnight service, that sort of thing. So I had really no background with any of that. But what really brought me to God was a dream. And this is what I've shared before. This is my testimony. So in this dream, I was walking outside of school with one of my friends, and a beautiful car came screaming down the road. And I looked at the car in the dream, and this dream's as real as me and you here. And so when I seen that car, I looked at it, and I went to turn back to my friend to say, hey, check this out. And my friend was no longer my friend. It was a dark figure, massive dark figure. And it said, before you get to God, I'll tear you, your family, and your friends apart. Woke up immediately, cold sweat, that whole thing, just wide awake. For the next couple days, I was like, what was he talking? Like, what was this thing referring to? Because I don't believe in God. It made a declaration against my life. So what it kicked me into was the studying and researching and the finding out what could really prevent this thing from coming back, because it was real, man. I hear some of the near-death experiences, people talking about that, and it was as real as that was. Like, I was just there in a different reality. If you've ever had that dream where you're about to bite into that hamburger and you wake up and you're like, where the heck's the hamburger? That was that dream. And so it kicked me into a full tilt research. I researched Buddha, I researched Krishna, I researched Muhammad. None of them told you how to deal with this stuff. Nothing told you how to deal with it. When I got to Jesus, I read all the stories about him commanding demons into swine, casting out sicknesses. And I'm like, this man is the only one that had any power. What's the story here? And that got me into Christianity. It locked me in. I had some happenings happen to get me into the church that I went to. And man, the blood of Jesus saved my life. That thing chased me into its enemy's camp. And I heard this said, I think it was from Rich on a different podcast. And he said, I had a friend, and he said, I had a buddy in high school who went to the old gods, the Norse gods. And he said he had this vision of Jesus embracing him, but these things just put their hands on his shoulder. And for me, that's exactly what happened in this moment, is this thing chased me into the enemy's camp. And it was Jesus. Jesus saved me. I had encounters with the Hat Man, shadow people. I've had encounters with my bed being shaken, dressers shaken, doppelgangers, you name it. In the woods, I've had encounters. I have had countless amounts of encounters. God speaks to me pretty regularly. I hear the voice, and then I hear the other voices that whisper back to me. And this is what I mean. I was touched by the dark. I was practicing witchcraft. I believe it led to a huge health issue with my mother at an early age. And, all throughout my family's line, each of the kids of my brothers, stuff like that, have fallen into some sort of witchcraft or sorcery. And for me, when I was talking to God about my son who's adopted, he's not my blood, which is beautiful. I love this. God grafted him in. And I noticed that he had
like he did us Gentiles, by the way.
That's right. Yes. Amen. And I don't mean to just keep rambling. You tell me to stop.
No, you keep going, man. I want to hear your story. I want them to hear your story.
And this is crazy. We were in the mall and we were by Spencer's or FYE when it was still open. And we walked in, and I knew, it's so surreal when you deal with patterns and witchcraft. You recognize things that normal Christians just don't. They just don't see patterns. Because the whole thing in witchcraft is patterns. Anyways, with this being said, he walked in the FYE, and I watched him. And I seen a Ouija board standing just right there, and it had the scream face, ghost face, all these, the macabre things. And I'm like, I'm just going to watch to see what happened. He walked around that whole store for about 20 minutes, didn't touch one single thing. We're walking out of the store, and he stops, he looks over, and he grabs the Ouija board out of nowhere. And I'm like, it's after him too. So we're walking down, and we walk past Spencer's, and one of the signs in the windows cuts off and collapses. And I'm like, whatever this is, it's sort of following. So, for me, you pick up on that type of stuff very regularly. And I remember praying to God saying, how are we going to deal with this? What am I going to do to keep my boy, who is not my blood, but he is my boy? He has my name. how am I going to keep this from reaching him and keep this out of his generation? And this is what God spoke to me in that moment. He said, we're going to let the enemy in the gate and close the gates behind him. For me, there wasn't a more powerful statement that could be made, because we teach our kids, we teach everybody to stay away, stay away, stay away. But what God was speaking in this moment is teach them these things and teach them, to stay away from it. Teach them why God is more powerful than these things. Teach them how to handle these things. And really what you do there is you invite the enemy in and then you choke them out. And that was great advice, man. I was like, this is crazy stuff. And, that's not a normal Christian way of thinking. We're taught to run from these things.
And that's farmer tactics. I grew up on the farm. I remember my papa,
Really?
every time we'd get a new animal, he would always hook it up and walk it around the borderlines of the fences. And he would take their nose and take them to each side, each corner, and touch their nose to that fence and pop them.
Get out of here.
And as a kid, I was like, that's so cruel, Papa. He's like, no, you're showing them their boundaries. And what will happen if they try to get out of those boundaries? He says, all the animals I do this to never try to escape. He said, even when I set the electric fence down to drive my truck in and out of here, he said, they will never get near the boundaries.
What?
So it's like, even what's his name? Jordan Peterson in his book, The 12 Rules of Life. One of the rules I loved that kind of correlates to this was leave skateboarding children alone.
Right.
So you might want to pad your kids up and helmets and elbow pads, knee pads, bubble wrap. That way they don't get hurt because you love them. But they're never going to learn if they're not getting hurt. So you have to step back and let them fall, let them break some arms and some legs and get scraped up, because they learn to persevere. They learn to get up. They learn to avoid those type of situations in the future. So, in this whole spirituality thing, it's like you can love your kids and spoil them rotten and shelter them so bad that when real life hits, they don't know what to do. And the same thing goes with your spirituality, I believe.
100%. That was beautiful. I never heard that before. Never heard that. That's wild. This is what I love about podcasts. This is what I love, especially about dealing with new people on new platforms. I would have never known that. Why would God tell me to do that? And in my logical mind, I wanted to go, let them in the gate. Yes, let them in the gate and allow him to come in, allow those enemies to come in and close that gate behind them. I had no idea what that representation meant. I just figured the Trojan horse, but I know it's a Trojan horse. I know what it is. But to teach it boundaries, that's wild. That is a wild concept. Never in my years since that happened have I ever thought of that or heard anyone talk about that. Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Hillbilly logic.
What's that?
Hillbilly logic.
Oh, hillbilly logic. There we go. But you know what? That's pretty wild stuff, man. I almost want to write that down, because now I'm going to add that in, because that's another layer. This is the beautiful part. But I think for many Christians, even if you don't have a great, crazy testimony or something that's like that, you still have a testimony you can share the gospel with. And I encourage everybody listening, know your testimony, man, and share it. Share it regularly. I just happen to have a very dark one. I'm not proud of that testimony. It was something I didn't know any better. It was something that clung to my bloodline. And if you heard my genealogy, it would absolutely rattle you. I don't like sharing that because I have a lot of family members, and once they all disappear, I'll share it. But I don't want to throw anybody under those buses. But literally the maiden name is Blazing Witches. That's the maiden name of my mother's line. And so for me, if you get to know them, you would see very quickly it could fit that representation, big lines. So Italian families, Sicily, that whole ordeal, we got a lot going on there. But
and you were dealing with generational curses straight up, because I remember when I heard your testimony, if I remember correctly, you had an experience with your mother. Like your mother might have been, if I remember right, was dealing with dabbling in this kind of stuff, and there was some kind of really scary, like supernatural thing that happened in the home. Am I remembering that correctly?
So she wasn't dabbling herself. I was dabbling in all of this. I'm the one bringing this in. So the pattern that I picked up in my family is it's never, and this is important in these stories, it was never the parents dabbling. It's always their children, and it affects directly the parents. And it throws everything into chaos. And I've seen this happen in my family probably 10 times now. I have a large family. And, as soon as I get wind that someone's playing with crystals, someone's doing tarot cards, someone's playing with Ouija boards, someone's whatever, I'm like, get that garbage out of your house now. Don't entertain demons. We don't throw pearls to swines. We don't bring in garbage to, a godly environment. You don't do it. Don't let your kids do it. Stay away from it. Do whatever you can to avoid having crystals around you. And I tell people this constantly because it creates chaos. I have endless stories of rose quartz creating chaos in people's lives, and it's usually brain injuries that happens from them. People have no idea. They wear it around their wrist. Are you insane? This stuff is believed to be parts of the fallen. That's the belief of it now. And, it's used for ritualistic basis. So, yeah, with my mom, she was on her deathbed. She's seen 33 doctors up to that point. And, I'm practicing and doing all these things in the woods. And I'm like, and there's a triple thumb rule, right? So you're doing all this stuff. And when you do perform stuff wrong, when you don't know what you're doing and you're not mentored and that's why, the school of wizardry and all this stuff, you have got to be taught this properly. And I'm not encouraging anyone to learn it.
Now, what is the triple thumb? I've never heard that.
So the triple thumb rule is if you misperform a spell, this demon, this entity, this deity, whatever you're dealing with, will come back at you threefold. And so if you're playing a game, this stuff isn't meant to be played with. There is cost involved. And my mom was straight up in a world of trouble. She was pretty much on her deathbed, and she heard a name whispered of a local lady that was a nutritionist. So she heard that name whispered as she's laying literally on her deathbed, and she walks into that office. She makes contact with her, and she's a naturopath, walks into that office, and the lady turns around, looks at her, and her name's Lois. And she looks at her and she says to her, God told me you were coming. And I believe it was her kidneys or liver. And, it's foggy a little bit because I wasn't personally there. My dad was. And she said, God told me you were on your way. And she goes, here's the problem. And within days, 33 doctors, 33, I keep saying that, 33 doctors nobody could figure out what was wrong. This lady said, we're going to pray over you and we're going to give you these supplements. We're going to change. And it completely shifted her out of that. So there was that. And then my mom's been plagued by stuff pretty much her whole journey this last time. And what you may have heard was the car ride, right? Is that what it was?
I can't remember. I just remember it was something like supernatural, something wild, because I remember it stood out in my head.
Yeah, and so that's the very first encounter. That's me as a young teen. That's when I'm dabbling, doing everything. Later in my life, this is only a few years ago, and there was so much revelation happening. God told me to write this all down in a book, and I call it the Book of Whispers, and I write everything down in it. He told me, I have it all marked down. I could go back through, but I think it was in 2022 or something. He was like, hey, start writing everything I'm doing down. So if if something speaks to me, because I always get spoken to about death, I always get spoken to about, hey, this may be the last time you see this person. This is their last Christmas. That stuff's always spoken to me. And I record that now like crazy because time and date, it's spoken. So with that, we were doing a deck, really stressful job, and I'll just give you the breakdown because I can't change all the names in this story. I haven't told it in so long, right? I don't want to call out any of my aunts per se. Anyway, so we were doing a deck. I was exhausted. I was not fasting purposely. I just didn't eat. We had a client that was being really a nightmare client. And long story short, the only thing I drank that morning was a Monster. That was it. I think I just seen you pound one, right? Mm-hmm. And I pounded
getting
a Monster.
Sugar crash coming.
That's right. You got to get it. I can't believe that. I can't believe you could drink one this late. That's pretty wild. You up all night? Wow,
No, I drink them for the taste now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm a coffee drinker, but yeah, no, with all that, I drank a Monster. That was it. So the day ends and it's coming to a close. I had to go get a junction box cover for electrical we were doing. And I was laying on the couch and I looked at my wife. I said, man, I am not feeling well. I'm not feeling good, but I got to go get this because we got to get this done tomorrow. They're on us. And this is like February. This is January, February. My uncle just passed away randomly, very random in his bed. He was young, early 50s. That whole thing happened. And a lot of stuff happened at his funeral. A lot of stuff involving me and my brother breaking curses at that funeral. Because the older siblings of the brother that passed away, my aunts and uncles, were always at war. You could never have a peaceful event. It wasn't kind. It wasn't nice. It was just like a whole bunch of hyenas packed into a pen and a piece of meat was thrown. You know what I mean? It was one of those situations where, like, no matter what, it was going to go to hell in a handbag. And that's my grandma's funeral, all of them. It was always the same story. So this was no different, but God in the midst of all that pulled, I wasn't speaking. I'm not good at funerals and never been, even though I'm a minister. I got too much empathy, man. I suffer with those who are suffering, so I get choked up real easy. And I know I look manly, but I'm not that manly. I cry too.
You big teddy bear.
Yeah, I know, right? And so anyways, I was pulled up and I got to do a bit of a eulogy and a remembrance and sort of landed the plane on that funeral. And that was a curse broken. The one aunt tried to start a lot of stuff. Those curses were broken. And anyway, so night comes, I'm driving to Home Depot. I'm getting this box and I'm just driving. I come up to the section that I never take and I take it. And I realized later that there's 3 crossroads on this drive. I had no idea. So as I'm driving, I hear the leather seat beside me because we had a leather vehicle. It was, I think, a Denali at the time. And you hear the crunch of something settle in, right? You hear that leather, just like that seat settle in. And you know that's a very familiar sound, right? And I was like, you could feel the presence in the car change, got real cold, right? Got sort of airy. People are like, does that really happen or is that just TV? No, that really happens.
No, I've experienced that.
It's a very unique, and the way I always tell Christians that never experienced anything supernatural is this. If you're in church and you're worshiping God, does the atmosphere stay the same as when you walk through those doors or does something shift? There's something that shifts, right? And someone gives a word of knowledge or someone speaks in tongues, if you believe that sort of thing, something in the atmosphere shifts. And that's what happened in the car. And in Witchcraft, if you read the Lesser Keys of Solomon, if you read the grimoires, they tell you what to look for. There may be this type of smell. There may be this if you encounter this being. And when he shows up, this will be, these sort of things. So I felt that coolness come into the car. I heard the leather crunch. And I specifically said to this, I didn't rebuke it in Jesus' name. I've done this 100 times. I've done this 1,000 times with this thing because it's been on our family for so long. And I said, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're doing. I said, but what I want you to do in Jesus' name is return to the sender. And when you get there, you let me know. Is this the story you remember?
I think so.
This is the story. So the one aunt who has been really, really a hindrance to a lot of the family, a lot of mental issues, a lot of witchcraft, a lot of different things. She was talking to my one aunt that the husband just passed away. And, I had this all recorded. I could give you the timestamps. It was like 15 minutes after I did that. The one aunt who's the witch, we'll call her the witch, she calls the widow and she's talking to her. And she, asked her, she said, hey, did your mom die? Meaning my mom. And the widow said, no, she's fine. So my one nephew is on a video game. He's got the headphones on and he goes, I don't know what happened, but I could hear the conversation. And the widow's talking to my mom. And she said, hey, the witch asked if you died. And when I look back at those timestamps, I went back through because the next day, my brother said, hey, Mom completely recovered, and she was suffering with depression and all this stuff for 2 or 3 years. 2 or 3 years.
Hey guys, it's no secret that every single day your dollar loses its value. If a man invested $1,000 in silver in the 60s, today that same $1,000 would have magically turned into almost $30,000. Silver and gold only continues to increase in value. If you have a 401k or money sitting in savings, that is just a number in a computer system that is one EMP or hack away from being deleted forever. I've recently teamed up with Cornerstone Assets and Metals and started investing in gold and silver myself. And I highly encourage the listeners, if you have money in savings just sitting there, invest it in hard, tangible assets. The same thing with your 401ks. Take a 20 to 30% cut of that 401k, that number in a computer system, and invest into hard, tangible assets that is proven to only increase in value. Be sure to check out the link in the description or the number on the screen, and be sure to tell them that Doc Brown from Prometheus Lens sent you. Torches high, guys.
And she was going through this whole thing, and nothing was helping. And he goes, you wouldn't believe it, Mom leveled out today. And this was the day after this encounter happened. And I told it to return to the sender and let me know when it returns there. And, all of it's broken. The generational curses it has on us, the ties, it's up. And, whatever contracts it had, they're no longer valid. So that conversation happened. So that all happened within like 15 minutes of each other. That it returned to the sender. The witch got it. She was talking to the widow. They had that conversation. Then she called my mom. The widow called my mom and said, hey, the witch asked this in this moment. It was a spirit of death. And it did return to the witch because she got a strange feeling that my mom was dead. And, for me, that was validation in those exact moments, in succession, in timestamps, like 15 minutes apart, that happened. My mom completely normalized. Everything changed from that point forward. That generational curse that plagued my family, my mom, whatever this thing was broken. And my boy is a part of that. I fully believe that. I wasn't able to have kids for years. And I still am not. I cannot actually have kids. My blood cannot produce kids for whatever reason. And I try. I really try. But I cannot have children. But so with that, when we got our boy, I felt so strongly. Even with his name, we did not name him. And his middle name that we did not give him fits the story of our lives so beautifully. And it's Gabriel. And my whole life has been, we talked about this before, the Christmas story. And that all led to these moments of me understanding that there is a generational bloodline curse on my family, and it's about to be broken. I could tell you story after story of whatever is guarding that kid, my boy, encountering darkness, and you can feel it to the point of where, like, me and my wife would get in the car and not say a word why this stuff was going on. And she goes, did you experience anything? I'd be like, yep. And we would have literally word for word the same experience of what we've seen spiritually happening. And, it was between like my mom and him when he was younger, and it felt like two cats hissing at each other where he wouldn't go over to her, but you could feel and see that in the spiritual. And, whatever was protecting and guarding him was looking at what was over her at those moments and saying, how about you just stay on your side and I'll stay on my side. And you could see that. And she word for word repeated that stuff. So this is a little bit of my life. Just a tad bit, man. But God has been so good. There is no power in the darkness that Jesus has not conquered. The blood of Christ covers it all. And that's the beautiful part. The power and potency of people with generational curses, especially near Halloween, you can break these things now more than ever. The witching month is not the witching month. This is a month that belongs to the living king, and that's Jesus, right? And so no matter what the witches do, no matter how many child sacrifices happen in the next 2 weeks, doesn't matter. The king is still the king. All those things are his servants. So anyways, that's my little plug. So I hope that gave you and made sense, because there's so much to unpackage here. I try to talk slow, but I usually ramble. So I try to get right to the points, man.
Now, and one thing that stood out to me was, I know you said that there was hostility. You know, you'd mentioned, hyenas and throwing in a pack of meat between a bunch of hyenas. So do you think that spirit of dread and depression and death was sent to your mother from your aunt, or do you think that this was a spirit that was attached to her that just kind of bled onto your mother? Because when you said that, I was like, well, did she put that on her? Like, was there a family feud and she kind of hexed your mother? Or?
So listen, there in my family, I got to block everybody listening to this. In my family, there's been a lot of feuds. I mean, they're uncountable because each brother, each sister has issues with one another at one point in time. And, we had really, really good uncles and really, really good aunts, and they're still good. But there were feuds for different reasons throughout that bloodline. Very dirty, very gritty. There's generational curses, if you go back, and I'm not trying to air out any dirty laundry, but if there's alcoholism, if there's abuse, there's generational curses there. And they pass down very regularly. They have pet crows, this sort of thing. You can see my buddy back here. But yeah, for all that stuff, it's so hard to say if it was a hex. I won't even deal with that aunt anymore. That's just me. That's a personal decision. Bloodlines are very finicky, right? The blood of Jesus, you can forgive people, but you were not supposed to live in toxicity. You got to cut stuff free. And, a lot of therapists want to come back around and say, no, you should still deal with, no, absolutely not. Sometimes you got to cut away the dead. And that's just let the dead bury the dead and move yourself on. Share the gospel where you can. And listen, you don't have to contact me for the gospel. You can reach anybody. There are 3 million Christians you could reach out to for prayer and different things. The toxicity that some people bring doesn't always fit right with your spirit, and that's okay. There's some people I've had to let go of churches, right? Like, you don't belong here. So for me, the pack of hyenas, I think there was always a darkness over the family. But I think it was very selective. And this is what I've learned in my own experience. Like, my 2 older brothers, they didn't dabble in the witchcraft, but I sure did. You know what I mean? Why did choose me? Well, when I look at me, I'm very spiritual on that stuff. And I'm not saying I'm better than anybody, but I was very sort of open to it all. And, number 3 is very unique in the line. And the only childs in the family were chosen, with witchcraft. So this stuff has like a taste for you. And it's so hard to say if it goes one way or another. Every time I meet with one of my uncles or aunts, I find something new out. So it's always something more in depth. My older uncle or my younger uncle that passed away, he had an experience with aliens over in a field where there's a very specific amount of trees, and then the black suit showed up. Him and his buddy when they were growing up, and the whole neighborhood knows about it. I've heard the story the same exact way, 20 different people, 20 different times. So I do back checks and cross checks as much as I can. And, people don't forget that type of stuff. So
right.
The occult usually signals, and I believe a lot of the aliens and all that, I believe a lot of that's fallen nature and demonic. I don't think, it's just magical creatures coming from a faraway land that has good indication. I just don't. That's my opinion. But, with all that, it's hard to say. I think anyone that was willing to open up a gateway brought in a lot of demonic activity. And, maybe the witch was the one who brought that on enough, and her dislikes were sort of the appetite of that demonic entity that gave it energy to create havoc. And, I was the minister in the family. There's no other minister in my family. And I currently don't hold a position in a brick and mortar. I do everything online. So I hope that answered. Did that answer that question?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Real well.
I tried to go into depth there, This stuff's so finicky. It's very fickle is a good way to put it, because it's like you're trying to play pin the tail on a donkey with an invisible being. How do you do that?
Yeah.
And you just chase patterns. That's all I do is chase patterns. So, when I'm able to locate and something catches me off guard, I'm like, what's that mean? And usually God reveals that stuff. So I'm able to pray fast through those things.
And that's how it works in the spirit realm. A lot of people look for God in these big miracles, these big things.
Right?
It's usually the little minute things. It's like God is in the background, just pushing things, he just gently. And I love that story of Elijah, when he called down the fire and all the Jezebel wanted him killed, and he took off, and went to that cave. And I remember that story. He said that he was praying and calling out to God, and he wasn't answering. But then suddenly a large earthquake happened, and he ran out and was like, God, are you there? And he was not there. And then there was this loud cracking of thunder and this storm. And he runs out, God, are you there? And he's not there. And all these big things kept happening, and he kept running out thinking it was God. And then he gave up and just kind of sits down. It says, but then suddenly in a whispering wind, he heard the voice of God. So it's like, God's the real big, strong guy in the gym. The big, strong guy don't have to go around strutting like a banty rooster and hooping and hollering and telling you how strong he is. He walks with confidence and goes and does his thing and gets out. He don't have to beg for your attention. No. So I think God's the same way, man. He does all these little things, and it's for the people with eyes to see and ears to hear. You see the little minute details and just know that is God setting the chessboard.
Listen, man, this is wild. This is just a wild conversation. Every one of you're freaking me out a little bit. I've been seeing triples and numbers, and I've been seeing 111, 222, 444 in like succession. And I'm like, anytime I see triples, I just think, okay, it's the Trinity, because I don't go into angel numbers. I don't dive really deep into that, because that gets a little freaky for me. As far, and there's a lot of proof, but I believe God could speak through the small stillness. I was walking, and I posted this on TikTok not too long ago. I was walking through the woods and, just taking a moment. Actually, it was riding up an alpine coaster down in Tennessee. And as I'm riding up there, you hear the whispers, right? You just relax. And I've always encountered God in the woods. And I've talked about this on different podcasts. Whenever I was doing witchcraft, one of the mentors, he was like, whatever you do, you don't listen to the trees. And at the time, I really didn't understand that. He's like, they whisper. And I'm like, what? This is freaking weird, And, but now I'm understanding what that means. I believe everything has a connection to the Creator. And if you're willing, if you're open, everything will have something for you. It reminds me of the burning bush with Moses. People are like, oh, this is weird. This is strange. The burning bush was literally God using a bush to speak, man. And for me, it's the small, minute things. That's what makes it a interpersonal and very relationship-based God. This doesn't happen with the lesser gods, right? This only happens with our God. Muhammad and his God does not speak to people this way. Buddha just sits there as a statue, and you're supposed to ascend. God reaches out to us, and to me, that's wild. It's just crazy, man. And so those encounters are always unique. I love that so much. You ever watch the guy on YouTube? He dresses up as a janitor, and then he grabs dumbbells at these massive guys, and he just picks
hands
them
those
up
mops that weigh 200 pounds and hands it off with one hand.
Yeah, and these guys, bam. To me, that's the God idea, right? You're entertaining angels the whole time. God's been here forever. He'll be here until the end. He's the beginning and the end. So the reality is we're frivolous. We're just racing around. Nevertheless, not enjoying what we have, always stressed, fell into a system of indoctrinations, and we're fighting against each other. And God's going, I'm the janitor. You need to pick his weight up. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to flaunt, like you said. That's what that reminded me of. I love that.
Yeah. And like he said too, when the Pharisees was demanding him and his disciples to stop preaching, remember what he said? He said, even if we were to silence, the rocks themselves would cry out.
So everything has frequency base. Everything has the voice, the breath of God. I love it. This is good stuff. And I haven't talked about this in a minute. Everything has frequency. And that was coming into Jerusalem on the donkey. They were telling him to knock it off, knock it off. He said, even if we would shut up, the rocks would cry out. And that's beautiful to hear that. Cain and Abel, the blood cried out to God, didn't it?
I talked about that in the book, yeah.
Absolutely.
The frequency of his blood was crying out. Even the martyrs under the altar in Revelation, the blood of the saints is calling out, when will you avenge us?
Yes. And he says, don't worry, vengeance is mine. Mm-hmm. And that's wild stuff, man, because I don't think people understand the radical understanding of what that truly means. I just want to ride back and defeat the Antichrist. I think that'd be beautiful, right? Riding out on the horses with Jesus, like for all the generations of turmoil and pain and on Armageddon. But anyways, the frequency base, such a big thing. I tell people all the time, be careful what music you listen to. We're coming into Halloween. You got to be really careful this time of year because there's a reason Halloween's on the day it is. It's very thin-veiled. We know this. And it's very thin for all. I've been having terrible sleeps. How you been sleeping?
I always sleep like a rock.
Really? Good for you. I like it.
I'm that 40-year-old man, but I'm in the 60-year-old body. I'm usually in bed every night by 10 o'clock, and I'm up at 5 a.m. no matter what. If I'm working or not, 5 a.m., I'm up.
You're up. You're that guy. That was my dad, 4 a.m., 4:30, man. Yeah, you probably... But yeah, no joke. He was always up bed at 9 o'clock, and then he was up at 4:30, 4 a.m. every day.
It'd make my ex-wife so mad. She'd tell me many times, she's like, I love you, but when you come to bed, I just want to punch you in the face. I'm like,
right? Oh,
why?
Man,
she's like, she said, it takes me 2-3 hours, she said, to get to sleep. My mind's racing. I'm trying to unwind and go to sleep. And my body's so tired and I just can't. She said, here you mosey in here. You lay your head on the pillow. You kiss me good night. She said, and within 3 minutes, you're snoring. She said, keeping me away.
Right. My wife's the same. She's like, my mind's always pacing, can't fall asleep. So what I try to do is give her time up before me and, have just basic downtime before we go to bed, man, because I get it. Women's minds are constantly running and like, I wouldn't want that. I can shut mine off in a second. Even when people are talking to me, I'm like,
do you have a nothing box?
I have a nothing box. I'm completely content in that nothing box. I sit there and just stare. And, I get some of these, hey, you there? I'm like, not yet. I'm in my nothing box.
Exactly. I use that all the time. And Rebecca thought that was just so funny.
Yeah.
And what's cool is, we're divorced now, but we're still really close. We're really good friends. We talk on the phone at least once a week and do stuff with the kids together. So we still get along great.
Cordial.
But, she used to joke and say, she'd get up in the mornings and I'd be sitting there getting ready for work. She'd get up to make me a sandwich or something for work. I would just be like staring at the wall, and she's like, you do this every morning. Why don't you just sleep in an extra hour instead of just sitting there? I'm like, I'm in my nothing box. She's like, huh?
Yep.
I'm like, it's my nothing box. There's not a thought in my head. I just have to stare at the wall for an hour and sip on my coffee, and then I'm good.
That's right.
She said, and I've learned, she said, that hour of the nothing box, no serious talk, no plans are to be made. You need that hour of silence. I said, yes, I do.
Yep. You have no idea. And, women don't have boxes, right? That's a men thing. A lot of people don't. I think that's from what? Men are from Mars, women are from whatever.
Venus or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say Jupiter, but that didn't sound right. Yeah, I think it is Venus. And that's the whole concept that women have spaghetti, right? They have a spaghetti brain. So everything links to another thought. That's just how their neural pathways work. Where men have like boxes. We are boxes. We open this box. We think we play out of this one. We put it away. Then we get the next box, which is coffee and breakfast. We open that box. There's nothing else in that box. We put it away, and then we move on to the next item, Women can't do that, though.
No.
And, you know, if you have women listeners, I'm sure they can all attest to that.
Yeah.
All manly listeners, you never know. But, no. Yeah, I don't get it, man. I just shut my eyes, and I'm out. That's because I don't war with people like women do. No.
Yeah, we put it in our nothing box and store it away we'll deal with it the next day when we wake up. We'll unpack it the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be there. Don't worry. And if it's not, then I'm off in the better places. Goodbye.
Yeah.
But,
it pays to have the memory of a mouse sometimes.
Right? Amen to that. High cortisol, I'll take it all day long.
Yeah.
You know, but, yeah, I mean, as far as all that goes, you know, a clear conscience is another sign that you have no curses on you. And that's usually a good sign that you can just shut your eyes and go to bed. But every once in a while, I'll be laying in the dark and, you know, we shut out. I don't have TVs. I don't have mirrors in my room. Do not have mirrors or TVs in your room. I just don't. And they're black mirrors.
That's what I was about to say. TVs, they call the black mirror anyway.
The black mirrors. Yeah, well, your phone's exactly that. I mean, you're not going to get much closer to a true manifestation of witchcraft than your phone or the television. I mean, it's literally in the name. Everything's based around witchcraft on this sort of language. So, but yeah, the mirrors and the understanding of what can come through them and who's in there. And, you know, there's an old ritual. It was called the 12 Kings. I was never really brave enough to do it, but you would stand all these mirrors, 12 mirrors around, and you'd separate in the middle, and then you would just gaze, and there was incantations that you would say, and you would wait for things to appear to you, and you could request questions, whatever it would be. And, you know, that was one of the rituals that used mirrors. Because when you do that, have you ever done a side-by-side mirror? It's wild. Like peer through what it looks like. Now do that all around you. You ever go in a mirror maze? A mirror maze?
Yeah.
It's sort of the same effect. Yeah, and like you're looking around, you just see thousands of, you know, endless sort of, that's a realm opening. It's sort of a gateway. They used to do it a lot with water. And water was one of those things you put mercury or different things in it, then do incantations over it. Crystal balls, same sort of divination. That's more divination stuff. But yeah, so laying there, every once in a while, I'll get that sense of a whisper of, you know, not the voice of God, and it's reaching back out, checking in. And I've had things try to cut deals with me laying in bed. You know, it's really weird stuff. You'll be laying there, be like, hey, you know, do you want to be famous? And you just I'm not thinking about, we have a nothing box. That's where I'm at when I'm going to bed. And you just hear a question like a come out of nowhere. And people don't know how to filter their thoughts. You have an inner dialogue. Almost everybody on this planet has an inner dialogue, right? And, you know, you got to start recognizing voices that come into that noggin of yours. And a lot of people can't do that. You don't even know what the voice of God sounds like because you're not even paying mind to it. And so, like, I think it was Harry Potter. I was walking past the room the one day, and it stopped me cold in my tracks because on the TV, I heard what I would generally hear, you know, the whispering. And I think it's Harry Potter where you hear that type of crap. And I was like, holy cow. Was that in the next? I realized it was on the TV. You know, it was just some random thing that happened. I was like, that's the voice that I usually hear in my head. And it was unwarranted. And, you know, I think, is it Voldemort or something? I don't know. I don't even know what that stuff is.
Yeah, they hear those whispers and that lightning scar or whatever would burn on his head. And
there you go. Maybe that's what it is. I have no idea. It's funny that there's a lightning bolt on his head. That's straight satanic, the fallen, or Satan.
Ball like lightning.
Yep, there you go. It's all satanic stuff. I mean, I don't know. Walt Disney, that whole realm. I always used to do a thing in October in the churches to try to show parents how demonic Walt Disney. He was the man that brought witchcraft into your home. We're going through all different rabbit trails here tonight.
Hey,
but
enjoy, folks.
Reality.
We love it.
Yeah, I love this stuff. And this is so easy for me to talk about. But that man, being a Mason, 33 degree, you can go look all that fun stuff up. He brought witchcraft right in on some of the first item, Fantasia, I think it is. It's all wizardry. And that was his goal, was to get witchcraft into your television, right?
Yeah.
And
Hollywood, the Druids made their,
Absolutely.
their staffs and magic wands out of the holly tree. And
holly tree. The holly and the ivy, which we sing when? Every December. It's all silver and gold. I mean, it goes on and on. And I always
remember they even
people
dressed
this.
Mickey Mouse as like a wizard for a long time, like on their intros of their movies. He had that
Absolutely.
red wizard gown and the blue top hat and the wand spelling Disney out.
And what's always unique to me, and nobody pinpoints this, nobody pays, but what do you get when you're really famous in Hollywood? You get a what? A star. They're known as fallen stars. Right, that's what the fallen were known as. You get
Paramount
stars
going around Mount Hermon,
right? And you could do the count on it. But even Mickey, his wand has what on top? A star. It's all Nephilim based, and Babylonian based, if you want to go that route. And we could go so deep into Christmas and Nimrod and his mother, and you wrote all about that, I'm sure, in that book. Because you talk about Esau, right?
Yeah.
Esau in the Battle of Nimrod. And, he got all of his magic garments and arguably was a Bigfoot, right? And he had bright red hair. Yeah. So I haven't read the book. I'm not a huge reader, but I need to. But
hey, the audiobook's supposed to be out any day now.
Ooh, are you reading it?
Yes, sir.
All right. I like it. All right.
I've had some of my listeners say, I could listen to you read a phone book. I'm like,
That's right.
You can now, you're without excuse. If you haven't read the book, you can't read, or you don't have time to read, you're without an excuse now.
That's right. And you know what? I love audiobooks. I always tell people this, and I would tell parishioners at the churches, faith comes by what? Hearing, right? So read out loud. You got to read your stuff. Don't read it just in your head. Read out loud. Anytime I have the inner thoughts, I always try to pronounce my words out, over people. And if we pray or when we pray, I always try to be very proclamation spoken. So anything that I speak over somebody, I try to speak with purpose. And there's intention you have to lock into when you pray. Most Christians don't know this. Witches do this. Witches do this all the time. That's how they manifest. They use manifestation. They use incantations. And incantations and these different things, it's repetition. Everything's repetition. It's like the rosary, just on the opposite end. You pray this prayer over and over and over and over because your subconscious is really what you're tapping into. It becomes a whole different
Working
realm.
up the beads, don't they?
Yep, you work up the beads, the rosary, whatever it is. And, Mother Mary, all that stuff, whatever. But for
Cimareris.
me, yeah, right.
The Queen of Heaven.
Queen of Heaven. Interesting stuff. But yeah, whenever you go into like Santa Maria and these different beliefs, you understand syncopation becomes a huge, huge thing. And I hear people do this with songs where they repeat one song all day, every day. When you're doing that, if that song has a negative indication or a negative, what is indication? Anyways, a negative overtone, I'm trying to let the bodies hit the floor and you sing that literally all day. You are tuning yourself into something. You got to be really careful. So anytime I'm hearing songs, I'm like, if it catches me, I'm like, is this a good song to sing? Because you're speaking curses over yourself. Christians got to wake up for all that stuff. So I'm exposing a little bit of witchery that happens. Even in the church, you find really repetitive emotionalism. God doesn't need us. We need God. So God doesn't need us to prepare an altar for him to show up. He is amongst us, and we're supposed to be within that every day, not just Sunday or Wednesday or Thursday at worship practice. Every day we are supposed to be there. Our God's way bigger than the lowercase gods, right? And
He's not God just one day a week, is he?
That's right. And, do you go to church regularly?
Honestly, no. Once I got divorced and I moved away, because I moved away like almost an hour and a half away from where I was at, and it kind of uprooted me. I had to start over. So like these past 2 years, I've not found a church, but it's honestly, if I'm being dead honest with you, I love the people, and but that was about all I really got out of church. You know what I mean? Because I had my personal relationship, with God. And I love to deep dive, the research and find all this kind of stuff in the Bible. And so I was already, feeding myself, intellectually there. And I was already, getting spiritually fed anyway. So church to me, honestly, it got to the point where it was a ritual. I went just to go to check it off the list, say I went, and I was a good little boy. Good boy. And to see my friends and people that I had developed relationships with. So I guess that's maybe why I haven't seeked it out since moving away, is because to me it was more or less a ritual, and I was already feeding myself. I was already more knowledgeable than the people trying to teach me.
Yeah.
Are you a hunter, a hiker, or just an outdoor enthusiast? Well, if you are, you know that good quality gear is hard to come by. And finding all-American made is like finding Bigfoot in the woods. Hence the name of Squatch Survival Gear. Head on over to squatchsurvivalgear.com. Use the code PLP10 for 10% off store-wide.
And, the wild part is, I went to seminary. We're all taught the same. We're indoctrinated the same. Here's what you teach. Here's how you teach. Here's the process. Try to grab this from Francis Chan. Try to grab this from whomever. Make sure you use Bethel for your worship, because that's the going rate. And for me, the production of ministry was not it. God really radicalized me and pulled me out of that. The biggest thing that I really was taught is church is who we are. It isn't what we do. The Holy Spirit is amongst us. Jesus said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I'm with them. Constantine is the one that made this showy church, and he weaponized religion. When it comes down to it, if you're walking in the Spirit of God, you're having church. We're having church right now. This is exposing the dark. This is teaching something. This is affirming belief. This is changing people and their perspectives. This is reaching the people that will never walk in a building. And I think that it is so important, so far-fetched to what we've been taught church was. You better go give your 10%. So the pastor can drive his Bentley. The reality is, take your 10% and allow God to speak to you on who to bless for his glory. There's a whole different realm there, right? Jesus didn't come to do that. Jesus came to set the captives free, right? The set the bloodline straight. He came to make a way where there was no way. And, the country club Christians, I don't think will ever get that. They'll just always be locked into, well, Sister Betty seen me today. I got my coffee at the church coffee cafe. I'm just over it. That pastor up there looked really good in his smoke machines and skinny jeans. So for me, and I crack these jokes, for me, coming out of the brick and mortar ministry and stepping into this, God really spoke to me in these moments. And because I felt the guilt like I need to not forsake the gathering. I need to not do this, because we were taught in Hebrew, do not forsake the gathering. Yeah, that wasn't a church meeting. That was what we're doing. And this is a true gathering. I mean, I get so much out of these podcasts. I'm getting so much out of you that, even when we were talking before the show started, you're teaching me things I never heard. And that's what I love. It deepens and quickens you. It's really, really cool. And that's sort of what we're doing on this whole thing here, is just showing that there is a darkness. And if there's a darkness, there's got to be something that keeps it in check. And that's the living.
And I
God
love these
for me.
conversations too. And that's what I tell people. It's like, I could easily say, the self-righteous thing and say, "Oh, I do this in service to the Lord,"
Right.
But I'm a realist, because I know I can't lie to God. God knows me.
He
And
knows, man.
I ain't going to try to fool you guys. And I've said it many times. I could easily say, "Oh, I do this in service to the Lord," but no, I do this because selfishly, I enjoy it. I enjoy
That's
it
right.
thoroughly. I love digging through. It's like a treasure hunt to me. I'm
The dig,
living out
baby.
vicariously as Indiana Jones. I'm running through the jungle, dodging these rolling boulders and grabbing the golden head from the booby trap rock.
And running back.
Yeah. And so, but in the process of me doing that and having these conversations with you, and like you said, the quickening, that's what it is for me. It excites me.
Yeah.
And God's like, okay, I'm going to give you something that you selfishly need, want, and desire, because there's other people that have that same need, want, and desire. And I'm going to work through your selfishness, because, no matter what, you're working for me.
Right.
So I'm
That's
going to
right.
use your selfishness to reach other people in their selfishness. And, this is church for some people.
Absolutely.
And it's God. It ain't me, because I just told you my selfish desires.
Right.
So
This is like a
there's
Catholic confession.
Yeah, there's many flavors, and God wants to give everybody the flavor they want. And I was that guy that when I went to church, and this is me being brutally honest, okay? Gloves are off here. I was never that kumbaya, peace,
Loving
God
little
is
donuts.
love, dancing through the pews. No, that was never me.
No.
Because my personality is Reggie the realist. I'm a believer and I have faith, but God has shown me many things that it doesn't have to be blind faith. You could see, taste, and touch it. And I know if I'm like that, other people are like that. And that kind of stuff kind of eked me out. I was like, and then it made me question, is my faith true? Well, how come I'm not, dancing through the pews and screaming and hollering and acting like that? Am I that lukewarm Christian or that cold Christian that God's going to spit out?
Yeah.
And then I come to realize no, everybody has a different flavor. And just as that kind of stuff ekes you out a little bit, there's other people that's the same. So when I have this show and I do what I do, I'm talking about Christ. I'm talking about relationship and love and forgiveness, but I'm also diving into ancient conspiracies and lost civilizations and cryptids, all the cool stuff, but I filter it through a biblical lens. So it's like, it's not a ministry, but it works as a ministry, and it's not beating the Bible over people's heads and giving them that icky feeling. So it's like, I've had many people that listen to my show and email me that they tell me straight up, hey, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a believer, but I really enjoy your show.
That's awesome, man.
And I can't remember how many emails I've gotten from people who said, I walked away from the faith, and through
That's right.
watching your show, man, I rededicated my life to Christ. I had 3 people email me in the past month, brother.
That's
and tell
amazing.
me the exact same thing. Through your show and what you're doing, I have rededicated my life to Christ. So,
bro,
I'm following my selfish desires, but God's using it for his means and his glory.
Amen. And listen, I always had a Jonah calling. I wanted to run from anything I was called to. I'm charismatic. I can be very charismatic. I was the shouting type. Up here in Pittsburgh doesn't work really well. Down there, I should have gone to the South. I should have faked an accent. I would have been golden. But, I didn't do that. And what God really taught me is it was a missionary. He came in and I was playing real heavy because I play piano, I play guitar, I led worship. And he was like, listen, pull that all back. He goes, just stop. And I was like, ooh, this is different. He goes, it sounds beautiful, nothing wrong with it. He goes, just stop. He goes, we're going to ask God to just show up here. No theatrics, no craziness. We're just going to call God. And
He's Jerry Lee Lewis of the church.
Pretty much, right?
You shake my nerves and you rattle my brain.
There we go. We can go right into that. Now, great balls of fire lighted on fire. Sinners everywhere.
That was
epic. Oh, man. Jeez, who would ever do that? In one of his quotes, nobody follows a killer. I always like that quote from him. But
was it Chuck Berry in that movie?
Yeah.
Him and Chuck Berry was fighting of who was going to be the final closing act. And he was like, I got the number one record in the world. And he's like, well, no, we signed a contract. Chuck Berry's going last. He said, all right, good luck following the killer. And that's when he set that piano on fire.
Nothing wrong. I mean, that stuff's wild, but like you just learn through all that it's not about the glitz and the glam. That's all ego based. It's just about you being you. And you said this isn't a ministry, but it is. It is a clear, clean cut ministry because there are people who are hurting, who need God. And God's like, there's no other way they're going to come through, but understanding that the darkness is a real thing. They need that logical understanding that the cryptids do exist. People have had those encounters. And, not just them, but the shadow people, the poltergeist, and Ed and Lorraine Warren. And when you understand, his whole thing was to prove the devil existed. So people would say, yes, God does exist, because you can't have one without the other. They got to coexist. And that's just the story, because he's a part of the kingdom of God that he chose to separate himself from. So it just points to the king. And, you don't have to Bible bash people. That's the beautiful part about this stuff, is we're talking about the dark and the macabre and the fringe and the things offbeat that nobody's talking about on a Sunday morning, because they would lose their whole paycheck in that church. So as soon as I started getting paid as a pastor, I realized very fast that bureaucracy, the things that you can and can't say, God was speaking to me, and I would speak them in the pulpit. I would have board members coming up to me and be like, you can't be saying that. And I would say, woe to you, brother. You got to watch yourself, because that's directly what God spoke to me up there. I said, you need to watch your steps. And that stuff didn't happen once or twice. That happened many of times. And so you learn real fast. If you want to follow God, don't get paid to do God's work. Just do God's work. I don't think Moses thought he was doing anything spectacular. He was just answering the call, And here you are, leading people out of their deserts. There's some power there, man. So you're doing a great job. You have great content.
No, I appreciate it. But I always put up that defensive wall, and I've said this on many episodes, so my listeners that's been with me for a while has heard this before, and they're probably tired of hearing it. But hey, there might be somebody new, okay? Just let me roll. Let me roll. I'm a peacock, baby. Let me fly. I love that movie, too. Yeah. But I tell people, I'm like, I always said that, this is not a ministry. I am a content creator who happens to be a Christian and filters all this cool stuff through my biblical lens. But honestly, that once again, I've done that selfishly because, like you said, I love how you said that, because you give me a revelation, brother, just now. You said you were a Jonah. You were always running.
Always running.
My entire life, man. I was the third child, too. I was the spiritual one.
Interesting.
And my grandmother, my mother, everybody in my family said, Justin's going to be the preacher of the family.
Interesting.
And I was like, nope. And I rebelled hard. I mean, hard. So now it's like my mother, my grandmother didn't live to see me doing this podcasting stuff, but my mom brings it up all the time. She's like, we told you.
We told you.
And I was like, no. And I'd done that because I didn't want those unreal expectations put on me, because I know how screwed up I am. Yeah. I know how I'm the lowest of the low. I sin all the time. I don't want nobody to idolize me or put me on a pedestal or think that since I'm talking about God that I have to do X, Y, Z and fit into this little perfect box that a pastor or a person in ministry has to do and be, because I know I could never fit that. So I put up those defensive walls. I was like, this is not a ministry. So therefore don't put your preacher expectations on me, because I'm going to let you down.
But I'm telling you, man, listen, I remember Jonah being my very favorite story. I would teach on that. And God said, you like this story so much because that's who you are. And I'm like, come on, man, that's an insult. He said, it's not an insult. He goes, Jonah eventually listened. He came around. And how did he come around? He came through by a game of chance. They drew straws. And that's when he realized, yep, it's me, throw me overboard. And they did. And, you know, the beautiful part is the realization in that whole story nobody talks about. He came to his senses. He said, yeah, I may not be like the prophet Elijah. I may not be like the prophet over here. I may not be this person, but God's still calling me, and regardless, I'll answer. That's the beautiful part. You don't have to have those expectations met. Guess what? I don't have blonde hair. I don't have blue eyes. I don't have perfect teeth. I don't have any of that stuff. I surely can't fit into the skinny jeans, and my style is not studio. So when it comes down to it, I love being an imperfect tornado when it comes to ministry, because
I love that.
Man, I'm telling you, bro, it gives the people that listen and the people that understand that they're not perfect. It's like the geeky kids in high school going, I'm making millions of dollars in my 30s, and look at the jocks. They're all fat and losers now. But in high school, they were looking at them like they had everything they wanted. The girls, they had the popularity. And it's so weird how things flip. And they just do. And God
I thought it always made me more relatable.
It does.
Just a quick story. I had a really big name ministry, something, and it's a ministry that I looked up to big time, man. Listened to a lot of the people, read a lot of their books, and really looked up to them, man. No. Smart people can put two and two together, but this person, I met them at a conference finally. And we exchanged numbers, and this person started watching my channel and listening to my show and stuff, followed me on social media, and they started really breathing life into me, man. It was kind of like a pinch yourself, is this real?
Yeah,
But he would text me and be like, man, you're doing great. I love what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. It's going to be no time. You're going to be reaching lots of people, dude, and I got faith in you. I love what you're doing. In the book, I wrote the book. I love the book, and you're doing so great. And so I was like, man, what if I reached out and maybe went on their platform and talked about my book? Because obviously they got a lot larger reach than me, and he keeps telling me how much he likes what I'm doing. I just need to swing at the ball. So I messaged him, and I was like, hey, I said, I just released my book. I'll fly out, on my own dime, come to your studio and stuff, and I'd love to talk about my book and stuff to your listeners and viewers. And he told me, he said, now, Justin, I love you to death, and I'm going to shoot you straight. That's because I'm going to shoot you straight because I love you. He said, I think what you're doing is great. He said, but if I brought you on my program, he said, I would receive nothing but backlash. He said, from our paying donors and supporters. He said,
no.
He said, you'll show up. He said,
yeah.
He said, you got that big beard. He said, you're covered in tattoos.
That's
he
right.
said, there's videos of you on YouTube with a cigarette in your hand.
Dangerous.
He said, I ain't got a problem with it. He said, but the people that pays the bills and keeps this network afloat,
this is the problem.
It would be a big deal. He said, they would probably pull funding. He said, and we can't afford to do it. It would hurt me, so I can't do it. And I'm not going to lie, it aggravated me. It made me mad.
Yeah.
And I even told that guy, I said, everybody has their audience they need to reach. I said,
That's right.
But the audience you're reaching is the suit and tie, already saved Christians.
Right.
I'm trying to reach the average Joes that maybe don't know Christ, that's never wore a suit in their life or stepped foot in a church. And to those people, I might be repulsive with my beard and tattoos and cigarette in my hand. I said, but I'm going to reach those people you're not going to reach. I said, because to them, I am more relatable. Because a lot of those people look at people, the suit and tie, squeaky clean, no tattoos, never say a curse word. They say Jiminy Cricket when they smash their finger instead of cussing.
Yeah, right, not me. No.
And they're going to be like, if that's Christianity,
I don't want
I could never be that. So therefore, why would I even try? I don't want to be like that. But if they see somebody like us, beards, tattoos, got a crazy backstory, they're going to be like, you know what, that guy's relatable. And he's a Christian. I could be that.
That's right.
Let's see how this Christianity thing works.
Absolutely. And, when I look at the story of Jesus and the Pharisees, I see that. I see that they want to go into the dirty places. They want to be near. They just wanted to look pretty. They wanted to be, profound. They wanted to be God's chosen. And then when Jesus came, he was touching lepers. He was allowing women to come up and touch his garment. He was healing people on the Sabbath. He was doing the dirty. He was doing the stuff that nobody in that time would ever accept. And it only took him 3 years until those people with those donors and those pretty coins and pretty robes said, we need to get rid of him. And they did their father's will. And who was their father? Jesus said it very clearly. Your father is the devil. Very, very clear. So, and I'm not calling that man the devil that told you not to come on. But the reality is there is a clear, clean-cut problem with Christianity today. And that's the problem. Donors don't control. The board doesn't control. God is who is supposed to control. Now, order is a great thing, but when God has a direct connection to a person and it's actually using that person, who are we to step in the way of that? Yeah. That's a dangerous game, and I don't want to answer for that.
That's what I told that guy. I told him, I said, I ain't mad. I said, I am frustrated a little bit and kind of disheartened. I said, but I'm not mad. I don't, I have no ill will against you. I said, but but your crowd, your road for that type of people is well covered. There's so many platforms and networks going to your group, that group of people. I said, the crowd that I'm trying to reach, I said, there is no platform.
Nope. There's no voice.
So I said, I feel God's called me to this, and that's fine. I don't need, any external help. That's not in God's will. I will carve my own path, and I will make my own platform for the normal 9-to-5 working class Joes like us.
Yeah,
because we need a seat at the table.
The beautiful part too, and I love that we're talking about this. This is a great subject. You're
talking about Holy Spirit filled. Everybody's going about, man, this is all over the place. Hey, man, we go where God tells us to go.
That's right, and it's fun that we're here because these are all things that I've been really pressed on my spirit in the past couple of weeks. And one of the things I always say this: I was 26 years old, and when I realized that, I wasn't a boy anymore, I was coming into manhood, was the realization that nobody was coming to save me, that I would succeed and fell by my own hand. And when I stopped looking for the Calvary in the background that was never coming, that I never had, that I thought would be there because we were in churches, we did everything, we were in crisis, we needed help, the gay community showed up for us. And I still can't believe that. None of us are gay, and I don't support that community, but they showed up in our family, and they supported where we needed to support. And I'm going, I am a pastor, I am a minister, I have people backing me, nobody showed up when we were in our times of desperation. Instead, we received judgment. You'll be fine. We'll pray for you. That type of stuff. And when I realized that, that's when I became a man. And that's when we opened our business. I got out of work in a 9-to-5. We switched our whole life around because we realized nobody earthly was coming to save us. So I relied on myself and the will of God and listening and tuning into what God had for me. And there is so much power in what you're doing, especially chasing after the unreachable, the ones who think that they're desolate, that they have no shot, because the Sadducees and the Pharisees will not get off their showtime on Sunday morning to go out to Giant Eagle where they know all the lost are, which is the grocery store where I live. They know where the lost are. Yeah. And preach the gospel. They're too busy collecting the tithes. And a lot of people have a lot of problem with this type of talk. But the reality is God wants the lost. He wants the one out of the 99. He wants you to chase the lost. That's the goal, man. And whatever that looks like, I don't care that you got tattoos. I don't care that you have a cigarette. They're finding out now nicotine's really a very high dose of nicotine can cure a lot of things. People have no idea. And their government's trying to ban it now. But the studies have been done. Anyways, with all that being said, we can go into that conspiracy. I just think that the church needs to reform itself. We're done with the glitz and glam. I'm over it. I want this. I want men on men here. Not, that sounds weird. But, I want no, come on, bro. You got to cut that all out. I want manly men leading the church. I don't want the feminist garbage anymore. I'm done with it. I'm done with the emotionalism. I'm done with the show. I'm done with the theatrics. I want real people leading the show. People like Christ. People like the disciples, willing to lay it down because they know it's true, man. Sadducees and Pharisees couldn't lay it away. But the fishermen, the tax collectors, the prostitutes, they could because they were real people. They had nothing to show.
And the people listened to them because they were like them.
They were like them.
And they're like,
Jesus,
if they can do it, I can do it.
Amen. That's why he was a carpenter for the majority of his life. He only did ministry for like 3 years, and they're like, we got to kill this man. Like, it's not hard to see when you start seeing it through that pattern. He was amongst his people. He was there to save, and we should be too. And, it's beautiful to talk about it that way. But yeah, man, we covered witchcraft. We covered churchianity. We covered all these things.
Amen. See, and this was a good warm-up conversation. Like I said, I meant it in the beginning. Hopefully this is the first of many conversations. So everybody
absolutely
got a good feel for you and who you are. And people don't know this yet, but they're going to find out on the next time you come on. But you are also a really good deep dive researcher. And I've heard you pick a few topics and really tear apart some rabbit holes. So I hope that you will grace me with some of that great research material in the future.
I appreciate that, man. And listen, I don't hear too much feedback, so that feedback's pretty incredible. I appreciate that. And I try to do my research. I really cross-reference, and God's given me the ability to see the patterns. Once you can do that, you can change everything. You can break curses. You can set new things in your life. You can change everything and anything about your trajectory in this world.
Amen. Well, brother, before we leave, man, websites, social medias, anything that you want to plug? I know you talked about your Handyman Preacher account on TikTok. If there's anything you want to direct the listeners to, let them know where they can find you.
My goodness, TikTok's probably the easiest right now. We do tool reviews. I do a lot of ministry preaching. I'll do some lives, and we do product reviews, and I sell a lot of products too. But that's the Handyman Preacher. You can go find me right on TikTok. I greatly appreciate you. You give me a follow, and I always try to follow back. I'm almost at my max, though. 10,000's at max, and we're close. I always try to return the favor any way I can. You can find Soulful Sunday. That's on Facebook. I don't do that too often anymore, but I will pop on there when God really lays something on me. And that's also on YouTube as well. I would suggest to go to the Facebook one if you could. Soulful Sunday in the shop. And that's really where I'm at. And man, it has been such a blessing to be on here. I love this. This was a phenomenal conversation. And you are really a good guy. I enjoy talking to you.
You're all right for a white boy too, man. I don't care what Chris says about you. You're all right in my book, brother.
Hey, what can I say?
Yeah. A broken clock is right twice a day, but Chris was totally wrong with you. I'm just kidding, Chris. If you hear this, Chris didn't say nothing, I promise.
I'm just listen, man.
Don't want to start no drama. I don't want to make you guys the hyena and me be the piece of meat starting drama.
Amen to that. No, Chris is a phenomenal guy. He wouldn't say that. Maybe.
Nah. Well, brother, man, I definitely appreciate it. And I meant what I said. Let's reconnect. Let's pick a topic that you want to talk about, or you've maybe done some research on, and we'll go down. I've heard you talk about Nimrod, the Tower of Babel, and a couple other things in the past, and those were really good. I enjoyed those thoroughly, so definitely want you back, and we will dive into those subjects or maybe some new rabbit trails, man.
Perfect. I'm all for it, man. This was a great dig podcast. I love it. It was so good. Man. Good
Definitely.
Stuff.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope we didn't go off on too many rabbit trails and tangents and you just lost interest. But if so, hey, I'll fix it next time, okay? Okay, nobody bats 100, okay? But, hey, check out his stuff, man. Contribute to this brother's work and check him out, man. I know he'd much appreciate it. And just remember, guys, the difference between the known and the unknown is the journey. So, good journey, guys. Man, guys, I hope you really enjoyed that, because I sure did. And I know it was a little bit, kind of all over the place. We touched on a lot of different topics, but man, it was just a great conversation. And that's the reason why I got into this, because I love the conversations, getting to know other people and their stories and just kind of people's positions on things. So this was the first time we had him on, and I've invited him to come back and share some of his research with us. But man, just what a testimony. What a great guy. I mean, you could not sit down with Jesse and not like this dude. So had a really great impression on me. I hope he had a great impression on you. And get ready, guys. We're going to have this guy back for round 2 soon. Torches high, guys.